Margaret Collins lived in a small, aging house at the edge of a quiet town. The white paint had faded to a dull grey, and the wooden porch creaked with every step. To most people, she was just an old woman who kept to herself. But those who truly knew her heart understood that. Margaret carried more love inside her than most people could ever imagine. 30 years earlier, Margaret had been a school cafeteria worker. She never married and never had children of her own. Yet every day she watched the children at school, especially the ones who sat alone, the ones whose clothes were torn, and the ones who looked at food like it might disappear before they could finish it. One winter afternoon, Margaret's life changed forever. She was walking home, through the freezing streets, when she noticed 5 boys huddled together behind a closed grocery store. Their clothes were thin, their faces dirty, and their hands trembling from the cold. The oldest looked about 12. The youngest couldn't have been more than 6. Margaret approached slowly. "Boys, what are you doing out here in this weather?" she asked gently. The oldest boy stepped in front of the others protectively. "We are fine," he muttered. Margaret noticed the way the younger boys clung to him. "Do you have somewhere to go tonight?" she asked softly. Silence. Then the youngest boy whispered, "No." Margaret's heart shattered. She learned their names that night: Ethan, Marcus, Leo, Daniel, and little Samuel. They had been living on the streets 4 months after being bounced between shelters and abandoned homes. No foster family wanted to take 5 boys together. Social services kept separating them, and every time they were split apart, they ran away to find each other again. "They're my brothers," Ethan said fiercely. "We stay together." Most people would have walked away. Margaret didn't. She took them home. At first it was just for one night, but that night turned into a week, then a month, then something even bigger. Margaret went to the local agency and made a decision that shocked everyone. "I want to adopt them," she said. The social worker looked stunned. "All 5? "Yes." "You're single. You don't earn much. This will be extremely difficult." Margaret simply smiled. "They don't need perfect," she said quietly. "They just need someone who won't give up on them." It took months of paperwork, inspections, and interviews. Many people doubted her, but Margaret never backed down. Eventually, the 5 boys who nobody wanted finally had a home. For the first time in their lives, they had a mother. And Margaret had a family. None of them knew that the love she gave them would one day come back in a way that would leave an entire town speechless. Margaret's house was small for 6 people. The boys shared 2 cramped bedrooms. The floors creaked, the roof leaked when it rained, and the kitchen table had only 4 chairs. But something magical filled that house: love. Margaret worked 2 jobs to feed them. She packed lunches, helped with homework, and stayed up late sewing patches on their worn clothes. Money was always tight. Some nights dinner was just soup and bread. But the boys never complained, because for the first time in their lives, they felt safe. Margaret made one rule very clear. "In this house," she said one evening, "we take care of each other." And they did. Ethan, the oldest, became Margaret's right hand. He helped cook, clean the house, and made sure the younger boys behaved. Marcus loved fixing things. If something broke, he would spend hours trying to repair it. Leo was quiet but incredibly smart. Daniel had a wild imagination and loved drawing. And little Samuel followed Margaret everywhere like a shadow. One night Samuel asked the question that made Margaret pause. "Why did you choose us?" Margaret knelt down and gently brushed the hair from his eyes. "I didn't choose you," she whispered. "You chose me the moment you needed someone." The boys never forgot those words. Years passed. They grew taller, stronger, and more confident. Margaret cheered at every school play, every football game, every small victory. But life wasn't easy. Sometimes the electricity bill nearly shut them down. Sometimes Margaret skipped meals so the boys could eat. Yet she never told them, because to her, they were worth every sacrifice. And deep inside, the boys knew it. Before they left for college, Ethan gathered his brothers late one night. "We owe her everything," he said quietly. One by one, the others nodded. "Someday," Marcus said, "we are going to give her a life she deserves." At the time, They didn't know how, but they meant every word. Life slowly pulled the brothers in different directions. Ethan joined the military. Marcus became an engineer. Leo pursued medicine. Daniel followed his artistic dreams and became an architect. And Samuel, once the smallest and quietest, studied law. Margaret watched them leave one by one. Each goodbye felt like a piece of her heart walking out the door. But she was proud. Every birthday, every holiday, the boys called her, "Hi, Mum." Those 2 words meant everything. Years passed. Then decades. Margaret grew older. Her hair turned silver, and the little house grew quieter. But she never complained. Whenever people asked if she regretted adopting 5 homeless boys, she always smiled. They gave me the greatest life I could ever ask for. What Margaret didn't know was that the brothers had never forgotten their promise. Behind the scenes, they stayed in constant contact. And slowly, quietly, they were planning something. Something that would take years. But something that would change Margaret's life forever. Margaret was now 82 years old. Her house had grown fragile with time. The roof sagged. The paint peeled. Still, she refused to leave. "This house raised my boys," she would say. One autumn morning, she sat on the porch sipping tea when a black car pulled into the driveway. Then another. Then another. 5 men stepped out. Margaret squinted. Her heart skipped. "Ethan." She whispered. He smiled. "Hi, Mum." Within seconds, all 5 brothers were standing in front of her. Margaret burst into tears as they hugged her. "What are you boys doing here?" She laughed. "We came home," Samuel said. They spent the afternoon talking, laughing, remembering old stories. Then Ethan gently took Margaret's hand. "Mom, we want to show you something." Confused but curious, she followed them into the car. They drove for 20 minutes before stopping in front of something unbelievable. A beautiful new home. Large, warm, and surrounded by a garden. Margaret stared in shock. "Whose house is this?" Daniel smiled. "It's yours." Her hands trembled. "We built it together," Marcus explained. "Every detail," Leo added. "Just for you," Samuel finished. Margaret covered her mouth as tears streamed down her face. "But why?" Ethan wrapped his arms around her. "Because 30 years ago, you gave 5 boys a home when nobody else would. Hundreds of them." The brothers had used their success to build homes across the country for homeless siblings, places where families could stay together, places inspired by Margaret, the woman who changed their lives. Margaret cried harder than she ever had before, not because of the house, but because her love had grown into something bigger than she ever imagined. That evening, the 6 of them sat around the table together, just like old times. Margaret looked at the 5 men she once rescued from the cold streets. "You boys did something incredible," she whispered. Ethan smiled. "No, Mom. You did." And in that moment, Margaret realized something beautiful. 30 years earlier, she thought she had saved 5 homeless boys. But in truth, they had saved her too. "If you'd like, I can also give you